Hey everyone, glad you're with us on the show today. We're on Keystone Lake that's about 25 to 30 minutes west-northwest of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that's to the boat ramp. So you can easily get to the boat ramp. Never been on this lake before, but what I've heard is it has a great population of striper, and that's exactly what we're targeting today. We'll be using a variety of baits from topwater to lipless crankbaits and hopefully put some of these nice stripers in the boat. Fox Sports Outdoors is on the air right now.
You're watching the only program with weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the Southeast region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors.
Welcome to this week's episode of Fox Sports Outdoors. I'm Andrew Upshaw, guest host for Barry this week. You know, I'm a professional bass fisherman. I fish the FLW Tour, have done that for about 6 years now. Fish the Classic, fish the FLW Cup, but today is going to be a different show. We're going to be fishing on Keystone Lake, and we're going to be striper fishing. I've never been to this body of water before, but from what I've been told, it has a very good population of stripers, and we're going to go use some bass tactics to hopefully put some stripers in the boat. We'll be using a variety of baits from topwater to lipless crankbaits on the main lake. Hopefully you can learn a few things from this week's episode that'll help you put more fish in the boat when you go striper fishing on your body of water. Also this week we'll have fishing reports from your local region from our insider reporters. In the meantime, I'm going to get to fishing. I see a lot of fish boiling out in the water already, a lot of shad flickering. I'm ready to go try to catch some of these stripers. In the meantime, I'm going to toss it to the FSN studio for your weekend planner.
If you can only pick one day to be on the water this weekend, Saturday is the one to choose with conditions listed as excellent. The Salooner tables are indicating that the peak game fish activity for the day should begin at 2:42 a.m. and 3:08 p.m. The sun will rise at 7:26 and set at 7:04. And evening skies should be bright with a moon that is 95% visible.
Oh, there we go. That's a striper. He ain't a bad one. Here we go. Pretty little striper, but it's a nice one nonetheless. Let's get this thing unhooked. So what we did is we pulled up on the sandy point. We're at Keystone Lake. Wind has kind of picked up a little bit and it's blowing across this point. I noticed there was 3 or 4 birds all across this sandy bank, which the shad on Keystone tend to use these sandy banks. So what we did is we pulled up here. I picked up a rattle trap. You know, a lipless crankbait is a great way to cover a lot of water, and it imitates a shad. In this case, I picked up one called gizzard shad. It has a little bit darker back. It's early in the morning. Anytime I'm throwing a lipless crankbait down the bank, I want something that has a little darker back and a white belly early. That tends to get a lot more bites, and if you notice, I have a red hook on there. A red hook is a great thing to put on a lipless crankbait when you're going and burning the bank shallow when there's an abundance of shad. And the reason I say that is when you see a lot of shad in the water, that means there's a lot of fish that are eating shad. They're going to be blowing up on them, and the fish are going to be a little bloodier. So your shad are going to be a little bloodier. You're going to have a lot more wounded shad than just shad swimming around. So that's going to give the appearance of a wounded shad, especially in shallow water. It's going to give a little bit of color difference and something for those striper to target in on whenever they're getting ready to eat. You know, obviously this is a pretty small striper in the standards of what this lake has, but you know what, it was a lot of fun. And just remember, when you're burning these banks, a lipless crankbait is a great way to put more fish in the boat when you have an abundance of shad like we had this morning.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Motor Guide Trolling Motors. Motor Guide, because accuracy matters. Lowrance Electronics, celebrating 60 years of fish finding excellence. Find, navigate, dominate. And Excite Technologies, powering the world forward.
There's one. There's one. Got him on the tiny trap. Oh. Man. You can tell he wanted that color right there. Oh, so scared. As you can see, he ate it across the bait like that. So what we're doing here is we have a little hump out here. It's a sandy hump. It's got a ton of bait on it. And we just pulled up here and I started fan casting this little small lipless crankbait. It's actually what they call a tiny trap. It's an 1/8 ounce lipless bait made by Rattle Trap. But the thing is I started noticing the bait fish are really, really small. And so what I'm trying to do here is match the hatch the best I can. And so I went to a little bit smaller bait. This is chrome and blue. You know, one of my favorite all-time colors. But you know, more so than anything, we paid attention to the details. There's a lot of shad on the top of this hump. You know, it's still fairly early in the morning. The thing is, a really small lipless bait is gonna get you a lot of bites, whether it's bass, striper, white bass, no matter what, it's gonna catch a lot of fish, and that's what we really enjoy doing. Main thing is though, always key in on shad. You know, these fish love to be around shad. They're gonna be eating them and gorging on them first thing in the morning, and no better way to cover water than with a lipless crankbait. We're gonna go ahead and toss it to your local fishing report.
Hey guys, your Tennessee and Kentucky Fishing Report is brought to you by Orion Coolers. You know, buying a cooler is a big investment, so buy one that's going to last you the rest of your life and suit your needs. Go to orioncoolers.com and check out their array of coolers and accessory options. Guys, in Tennessee and Kentucky right now, the fishing's pretty good. We're in that weird little time when it can be really good today and really tough tomorrow. Not proud of this, but I actually went one day this week and put in on Kentucky Lake and did not catch a keeper bass. That's not that I'm awesome, but this lake's pretty good, so that's kind of an oddity. However, I heard of a guy that caught them really good the next day. So let me tell you where I would go in the Tennessee and Kentucky region and what I would do if I wanted to catch fish. First off, if I were coming to Kentucky Lake right now, I'd probably go crappie fishing. I'd pull crankbaits, I'd get on channel swings, creek ditches, just offshore structure. The number one place I'd go in the lake, in the two states right now, would be Dale Hollow. And here's what's going on at Dale Hollow. There's a great topwater bite early on the lower end, and then run up mid-lake or up the lake up in the day and find the pockets that have grass in them, and there's a good largemouth bite going on. Chickamauga is really good as always, and it's a grass thing. They don't care what time of year it is. Gibson County Lake in West Tennessee is starting to kick out some big fish again. We're just kind of everywhere you go right now in the state of Tennessee or the state of Kentucky, it's hinging on the weather. And the closer it gets to fall, the better they'll bite. Guys, we'd love to see you here. God bless.
There we go. There we go. It's a nice striper. We pulled up here on this shallow flat. And if you look around, you see a ton of birds, ton of activity. Picked up a topwater. He just spit up a shad right there. It's probably a 2 to 2.5 inch shad. Not a giant fish, but I mean a decent striper nonetheless. A lot of fun. Ooh. There we go. So, like I was saying, what we did here is we pulled up on the shallow flat, saw a lot of birds. One of my favorite things to do is to look for birds when I'm targeting stripers. You know, notoriously, stripers are a fish that are a very aggressive feeder. They're always going to be opportunistic. They're always going to look for shad and vulnerable situations. The fall time of the year is a great time to come out on Keystone Lake and go on these sandy flats and look for birds, look for shad up on sand. You know, they really tend to use that sand. You know, obviously that's not the biggest striper in the world, but they just blow up and hit the baits as hard as you could ever imagine, whether it's a lipless crankbait or a topwater plug, no matter what it is. It's always a lot of fun, and it's a great way to get a kid on the lake and get them a lot of bites. The key though is look for these sandy banks with birds, flatter areas in the fall. This is going to put more fish in the boat, and all of them are going to be about this size and a little bit bigger. Oh, there's one. Oh, there's one. It's a nicer one there. Oh, a little bigger than I thought he was. Here we go. So we were just pulled up in some baby stripers. I mean, some that were 3 to 7, 8 inches long. And this one was up there. So it just kind of goes to show you that these size are actually probably feeding on some of those smaller ones. They're super aggressive fish, so it wouldn't surprise me at all to know that this one's probably eating some of those smaller stripers and some of the shad. You know, the thing is, what we're doing here is we're looking for sandy banks with lots of birds and lots of bait. We're on Keystone Lake around Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's about 30 minutes outside of Tulsa. It's a beautiful lake. It's the first time I've ever been here. It's got a great population of stripers from everything I've heard. Guys are catching 16 to 30 pounders. I mean, there's some giant stripers out here. Hopefully we'll put one of those in the boat before the end of the day. But you know what? These are some great fish and a lot of fun. Just make sure when you come out here, fish those sandy banks, keying on birds and bait, flatter banks, main lake. Big key there is fish the main lake, because that's where those stripers are going to feed the most. Closest to deep water that you can, we're only sitting in like 3.5 foot of water. And that's what they do in the fall time of the year, is they get up super dirt shallow to feed on these shad. Let's go ahead and toss it to your local region fishing report right now.
This part of the program is brought to you by Egret Baits, makers of the new Voodoo Mullet. The Voodoo Mullet has a serrated body wiggling action that fish can't resist, and it comes in 2 sizes to match the hatch wherever you're fishing. So try a Voodoo Mullet and let the fish do the rest. Well, fishing in Mississippi has really kicked off this week. Redfish are on a tear. There's lots of slot fish, those 3 to 6 pounders, but there's also some bulls working around too. A lot of these, the redfish are being caught in the marsh areas over around Bay St. Louis with Captain Sonny Schindler, doing real well there. Also in Biloxi Bay has been great. Also on the coast of Mississippi, the cobia fall run has started. And to top it off, way offshore fishing has been outstanding for yellowfin tuna off the coast of Mississippi. There's a lot of fish being caught around anchored up shrimp boats. Chum those fish up and then throw a lure or a bait to them. Most of these yellowfins are going 40 to about 60, 70 pounds, but there are some real big fish over 100 pounds. In Alabama, it's much the same story. Captain Patrick Garmison is doing real well on slot redfish, and there's some bulls around Dixie Bar. And in Georgia, the mullet run is on. Mullet are cruising along the beaches, along the Intercoastal Waterway, and they've got everything tagging along with them. Tarpon, Jack Crevalle, big redfish, you name it, that's where they're going to be when those mullet are coming down the coast. So it's pretty red hot along the southeast coast now, and so get out on the water, and when you go, take a youngster with you.
This week's Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi Freshwater Fishing Report is sponsored by Southern Saltwater Fly Fishing Magazine. This destination-oriented e-zine covers a great saltwater action on the South Atlantic and Gulf Coast from Maryland to Panama and the Caribbean Islands. Subscriptions are free at www.southernsaltflyfishing.com. Now, the month of October has arrived, and it's traditionally a good time to be on the water across the Deep South. The weather's cooler, the fish are biting, summer boaters are gone, and a lot of the sportsmen have now gone deer hunting. This makes for comfortable, productive, and uncrowded angling conditions. In North Georgia, it's a good time to target walleyes on the Tallulah River reservoirs. Both Rabun and Seed Lakes are good places to try. The best tactic is to troll a small crankbait or a night crawler near the bottom. At dawn and dusk, these fish will move to the shallow points, and you can catch them on floating twitch baits or chartreuse curly-tail jigs. Most of these fish are going to be 2 to 4 pounds, but bigger walleyes are present. Last year, Rabun gave up a new state record 14-pound, 2-ounce walleye. Down in central Alabama, Lay Lake on the Coosa River is a good option right now for largemouth bass. Concentrate on the aquatic vegetation along the shore for the most action. On Mississippi's Archibutla Lake, the crappie fishing is really heating up this week as the slabs begin to feed to get ready for the winter.
We're taking a quick break, but first, here are a few bonus pictures from our Costa Catch of the Week contest. These photos were not selected as winners, but we still wanted you to see some of the fantastic catches from around the region. We'll reveal this week's winner toward the end of today's program. Back in a bit.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Tracker Boats. It's more than a boat, it's a tracker. Mercury Marine, go boldly. And Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there.
Oh, there's one. Oh, it's a bass. Oh, there's one. Oh, it's a bass. You can't take a bass fisherman striper fishing and expect him not to catch a bass, even if it is on accident. Well, see, the thing is, when you're throwing baits like a lipless crankbait or something like that, you're gonna catch other species. And today, striper fishing, I catch a bass on a rattle trap, and I mean, a rattle trap just catches everything. I mean, nice little bass, nothing to write home about, but Keystone Lake has a lot of bait fish. We just sat around and graphed for a few minutes just to see what we could find, and there's bait from one end to the other, but they all are on the same kind of banks, these sandy banks. You know, right here we pulled up, and as you can see, there's one bird left in the background, but there was like 6 or 7 along this bank. Very first cast with a trap, caught a really nice bass. You know, the cool thing about Keystone is it's right outside of Tulsa. Tulsa has a lot of great attractions, a lot of cool things to do in downtown Tulsa, and you also have fishing 30 minutes away. I can't remember how many lakes are around Tulsa, but there's a ton of them. Keystone being one of them. It has a great striper population. We've caught a bunch today. But in the meantime, let's check out your fishing report from your local region and see how they are catching fish around where you are.
Hey folks, it's time for your Carolinas report, and as always brought to you by the Dead Dog Saloon. And this fall, you've got to get down here and enjoy what it's all about here. It's the food, the view, and the music, but the waterfront is beautiful this time of the year. Come down and see us. We're open 7 days a week for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's talk about saltwater things this week. I tell you what, Let 'em Go and Win the Dough is a new flounder tournament coming here to Murrells Inlet, but along the Grand Strand. It's October 7th, captain's meeting being October 6th over at Crazy System Arena, located on the Marsh Walk as well. It's an hourly rodeo style tournament with all live release. We've got some great payouts throughout the day, and also it's going to be very limited in our environmental impact that we have on the fishery here, as we learn from the red fishermen and the bass fishermen that fish these tournaments would catch and release. Now let's also talk about offshore. The wahoo bite, with the water temperature starting to cool like they are through everything, there's really turned on. The blackfin tuna are showing up, but the wahoo are stacked up in that 150 to 185, 200 foot of water on that live bait. Get out right now and try some high-speed trolling. 15 to 19 knots is a great speed if you've got the right equipment out there. Get some heavier weights, make sure you get wire rods and get those lines down. It can produce some of the biggest wahoo of the year. Also, the king mackerel bite along the Carolinas in those live bottoms areas in 20 to 50 foot of water is solid right now. Get out, you have a great time. This has been your Carolinas report, and it's brought to you by the Dead Dog Saloon. Remember, fish smarter, not harder, and keep your chaos organized.
Be sure to join Fox Sports Outdoors again next week, Thursday night at 6, or catch the repeat airing Sunday morning at 8:30. And you can always watch the latest episode in full HD on the front page of our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com. Plus, catch up on all past episodes by clicking the archive button. And see lots of our how-to and product videos by selecting the how-to button. Join our online fishing community. Just click the like button on our Facebook page for access to daily posts with lots of fishing news, videos, and frequent giveaways. And stay up to date with all the latest fishing information and photos by following our Twitter feed. Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Luz, fueled by passion, driven by innovation. Feel the difference. Gene LaRue Bass Baits and Bobby Garland Crappie Baits, the leaders in soft plastic lures innovation. And Nitro Performance Fishing Boats. Champions aren't born, they're made.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's time for the Ask the Pro question, your chance for advice from professional anglers. This week, Jeff writes, how about some boater safety tips for a new boat owner? For a few insights, we checked with Bassmaster elite angler Ish Monroe.
First boat you ever own, first and foremost, wear a life jacket. I don't care from the time that you step on that dock to the time you step off of that dock, you're wearing a life jacket. That is first and foremost, very important. Secondly is making sure that your kill switch is connected to your life jacket every single time that big motor is running. I mean, safety is the first and foremost. Safe boating is the one thing that you should pay more attention to. You know, making sure you have a whistle, making sure that you have a throw cushion, making sure that you have a rope, making sure you have an extra change of clothes when you're out there, regardless if it's hot or cold, having that extra change of clothes, because as the first time boat owner, you're gonna make some mistakes and you're gonna fall in the water. People think us pros don't fall. We still fall in the water to this day being pro anglers, and I spent over 200 days in a boat. So safety, first and foremost, reading the owner's manual, wearing a life jacket, and connecting that kill switch.
Thank you, Ish. If you have something to ask one of the pros, just visit our website, follow the Ask the Pro link, and let us know. Now let's see which big fish picture wins someone a new pair of sunglasses on the Costa Catch of the Week.
This week's winner in the Costa Catch of the Week contest is Jay Murdaugh of Augusta, Georgia, showing an 11-pound, 1-ounce largemouth bass he caught at Mount Olive Lake in Georgia. To enter the contest, go to foxsportsoutdoors.com, click the Costa Catch box on the right side of the homepage, and follow the instructions to send in your big fish photo. You could win a new pair of Costas, and you see all the Costa sunglasses at their website. Just go back to our site, click the Costa logo. You can see all the frames and lens styles, including the styles I'm wearing today called Motu. Today on Keystone Lake, I used a variety of techniques and patterns to land our fish. First, I started the morning with a Stutter Step 4.0 in the Pro Blue color. This is a rattle trap bait, makes a lot of noise, and it stays in one place when you walk it. The stripers really love this. Once the topwater bite kind of died, I went to a trio of rattle traps. I first started with an 1/8 ounce with a loose spinning reel to just try to catch some fish in a chrome color. Then I went to a 1/4 ounce chrome black pattern, which actually turned out to be the best one of the day. And finally, I went to a 1/2 ounce in a gizzard shad color. I primarily threw the 1/2 ounce gizzard shad color, which is a white and a darker back, when it was still a little bit lower light, and it's actually what I caught the only largemouth bass of the day on. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Fox Sports Outdoors. I hope you learned how to catch them and find them on Keystone Lake. I sure had a great time. Barry's going to be back next week. Thanks for watching.